Today we got a question from Rowan Vandergriff. He says, question for you, which I'm sure you run into a lot. How do you progress when you don't have the best competition in your gym? My wrestling is better than everyone in my gym, which sounds braggy, but I just have way more experience than them. They have only been doing pure BJJ. How do you improve when it's hard to get people to push you in live rounds? Thank you for the question. I actually do not, I don't relate to this quite at all. I'm really lucky to say that when I'm here in Montreal, I have amazing training partners who push me, submit me, and like quote unquote beat me consistently. Number two, when I go do my really big camps at Pedigo, I pretty much the same thing. So I'm actually not in a similar situation. Back when I was home in Louisville and I was more of in like a hobbyist gym, not hobbyist gym, I mean everyone was really good, but like less competitive, like people don't actually compete gym, I could catch your drift. But I understand what you mean. You feel like you're in a room full of people that are less athletic than you, don't have wrestling experience, which obviously gives you the competitive edge in those hard rounds. Now, before I give you the 4 tips, because I have 4 tips to help you out with your problem, to help you progress, because I understand that you're basically saying you feel like you're not progressing because the rounds are too easy. I don't know what your experience is in jiu-jitsu. You didn't really clarify, but assuming that you're pretty experienced in jiu-jitsu, which it seems like you're pretty experienced in jiu-jitsu and you're pretty experienced in wrestling. If you're the best guy in the room, you can always think about lowering your intensity. Now, again, I'm going to give you 4 really good options to help you with this issue, but the number one thing I could say is it should be about consistency over intensity and not necessarily just winning in the practice room and, finding ways to make sure that you're still exploring positions. I'm not saying you're not, but I don't know. Again, you didn't really clarify. And before I get to the 4 points, guys, if you guys would like to learn how to wrestle, how to get really, really good at takedowns, takedown defense, and hand fighting for jiu-jitsu, you guys can check out my takedown for jiu-jitsu or wrestling for jiu-jitsu instructionals at brandonreed3x.com, or you can click the link that's about to pop up above, which I believe is going to be popping up right here, or check out the links in the description below. You can also find my Patreon where I share match breakdowns, seminar Q&As, seminar techniques, and more. Anyways, back to the points. So my 4 points here: you feel like you're the best guy in the room. Let's say you're even doing the thing where you're just kind of trying to be technical and not be intense and still feel the same way. I'm going to give you 4 things that I suggest that you can do, whether you're a wrestler in wrestling or someone who finds himself being the best guy in the room in jiu-jitsu. I'll give you 4 things, and they may seem obvious, but I think that they will really, really help you. So number 1 is, if you can, find a better room. Now, this is going to sound really harsh to a lot of people, but the reality is, if you're training in an environment that's not pushing you and you want to be a competitor, which that seems like that's what you want to do, it's probably not good to train in a room where you're having to go out of your way to push yourself. Now, of course, we all have to go out of the way to push ourselves, right? That's the reality of it. We can only work as hard as we want, even in a really good room. But if you're working really hard to work hard and you're still struggling to find challenges, yeah, you probably need to try to find a better room. And that's nothing personal. It has nothing to do with your coaches. It has nothing to do with your training partners. Like, nothing personal, right? It's not an attack on them. People have lives. People are full-time workers. They're older, et cetera, et cetera. Their priority is not jiu-jitsu. But with that being said, you have to think about yourself and think about what you can prioritize and how you can get better. So depending on the city you're in my opinion, you should look at Google reviews, look at whatever, and try to find a room that's filled with people that compete. Next, try to compete as much as possible. If you want to be challenged and you want to see how good your jiu-jitsu, how good your wrestling, whatever it is, try to compete as much as possible. If you feel like you're not getting challenged in the room, in the training room that is, you'll undoubtedly get challenged in competition if you sign up for the appropriate level of competition. You are a wrestler, or that's what it seems like. So go ahead and you should be able to sign up for most intermediate divisions. Beginner divisions, not a good idea for you. But if you're, I don't know what belt you are, let's say you're a white belt, blue belt, go ahead and sign up for those intermediate or to advanced divisions. Go out there, push yourself, challenge yourself, because competition is the quickest way to get honest feedback. In practice, there's a lot of things that are happening that allow, I would say, unrealistic things to occur, which is not a bad thing because practice is the room for experimentation and exploration. But in competition, it's less about exploration and more about, testing your skills with people that are also competitively driven. I think you can go compete, and then once you compete, it's going to give you an instant feedback loop, right? So once you compete, now you'll have an idea about what specifically you need to work on in practice. That can then allow you to implement certain specific training systems to to your sessions in the upcoming weeks, right? For example, if you go to a competition and a person entangles your legs every 5 seconds, maybe you're like, okay, for the next like 5 weeks, I'm just gonna do detachment drills where anytime someone gets an attachment on me, I'm gonna detach and flank. Stuff like that, you know what I mean? Or let's say you're going to a competition and your partner, you find that your opponents are able to just double leg you a ton. Maybe that's a good chance for you to work on your head hands defense, let your partner shoot doubles, just work on blocking with your head, down blocking, etc., whatever it is. Whenever you go to competition, whenever I've gone to competition, of course I can only speak about my experience, but whenever I've gone to competition, I found that I've gotten a lot better at the things that I messed up. Even when I've won, right? I've gotten better at my takedowns, I've gotten better at my passing, guard, etc., all based on things that happen in competition. Win or lose, the instant feedback loop of competition really helps to push you. And then again, you can, it allows you to be a lot more sophisticated in your practice. You're not just rolling. Instead, you're being very goal oriented and specific with your rounds. Next, try Shark Tank rounds. Now, I love Shark Tank rounds. I feel like they don't happen enough in Jiu-Jitsu, but essentially a Shark Tank round would be, just, I'll give you guys an example because there's literally unlimited ways to do this. Let's say you put 6 minutes on the clock. Man A stays in the middle the whole time. Man B, C, and D, you are the sharks, right? So man A is the fish, the person who stays in the middle. B, C, and D, you are the sharks. In this Shark Tank round, because I'm a takedown channel, right, or a wrestling channel for Jiu-Jitsu, right, it's all takedowns and you have to get 1 hook in, right? So if man B takes you down and gets 1 hook in, man C comes in. If you take man C down and get a hook in, now man D comes in. But you do this for 6 minutes, so whether you're winning or losing the constraint, you're still staying in and you're able to push your cardio, test yourself, and really get a lot better and build up that cardio, that grit, that intensity that you need as a competitor. I love Shark Tank rounds. I think they're so necessary, and I find that they're underdone, like they're just not done quite enough. And if you do Shark Tank rounds, I think you'll get a lot better at wrestling in particular, and you can do them with Jiu-Jitsu too, right? Like when I was doing my ADCC camp with Pedigo, we did a lot of passing Shark Tank rounds in particular, like a lot of outside passing where it was like, if they entangle you, you lose, you have a new partner, you're still passing from the outside, stuff like that. So if you really want to get that next push, even with people that are much worse than you, at some point you're going to get really tired and you're going to have to be so focused on just being technical and safe. I think Shark Tank rounds are a great way to really push yourself, especially when you're someone who's a little bit better than the others in the room. Last but not least, guys, is get extra workouts in with friends or coaches. Now, of course, you guys know I've been looking a lot into the ecological approach or constraint-led approach, but I am still a sucker for drilling. Don't know what it is. I like it. I enjoy it. It makes me feel better and it makes me feel more confident. So depending on what you consider work, go ahead and do some more of that, because I think that there is undeniably something about, even if it's a placebo, there's something about putting in extra work, whether it's drilling, whether it's more situational rounds, whether it's, you know, CLA rounds, whatever it is, doing more than what your opponents do, right? Now, this doesn't have to mean you do an hour more of training, man. It could literally be, all right, after practice, you do 5 minutes of stance and motion, or after practice, you do 5 minutes of single leg situational rounds, or after practice, you do 5 minutes of takedown drills or passing drills, whatever. You're just doing a little bit more so you can kind of build your confidence in specific scenarios. Those are my 4 pieces of advice, right? If you can, find a better room. That's number 1. Number 2, try to compete as much as possible. It really helps. Number 3, try Shark Tank rounds. Oh man, they suck, but they're gonna do you really well. And number 4, get in extra workouts with a friend or a coach, whether this is drilling, whether this is situational rounds, whether it's even just straight up workouts. Whatever it is, put in the extra work. It's gonna help you build confidence. It's gonna make you better, undoubtedly. I don't know the science to it. I just know that extra work makes you win. That's my opinion. I understand the struggle. I've been there. I've done that. Hopefully this video helped you. And if you guys have any questions, I'll do my best to answer it. Just be as specific as possible. What's your problem? How old are you? Do you train jiu-jitsu? Do you train wrestling? What do you want from me? What's the question? Be as specific as possible. Tell me your story. Let me know how your story connects to your question. Put it in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer it. And don't forget, you guys can go to brandonreed3x.com/store to check out any of my wrestling for jiu-jitsu instructionals. My takedown defense instructional for beginners is going to drop here in about a month or 2. Still working on editing it, but I think it's going to be fire. It's going to be bomb. But before you guys get that, I have tons of actual offensive takedown instructionals. Just once again, go to brandonreed3x.com/store to check those out. See you guys next time.